Hello everyone, welcome to the What If Anime YouTube channel. Today, we are diving into an exciting new story that will take your imagination to the next level. Let's get started. What if everyone ignored Naruto until he mastered the Rinnegan? If you enjoyed, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. The era of warring states. A time of constant warfare and bloodshed in the name of whoever your daimyo is. From seasoned warriors to a simple farmer and even children, no one is safe from this accursed lifestyle. Humanity may not have any special abilities, and he mostly use various blades and blunt objects as weapons for battle. Some groups people are known as the most skilled warriors in the world. They are known as clans or skilled families specializing mainly in combat. My clan, the Otsutsuki clan of the northern mountains of the land of lightning, is known as the most skilled clan in the world with our superior physical and mental skills as well as our naturally sturdy bodies and long lifespans. I am the son of the Otsutsuki military's general, or leader who is the right-hand man of the clan head. My family has spoken of a massive and sentient tree that resides in the heart of the land of fire, the Shinju. It grows a single fruit once in a millennia that contains near godlike power that the consumer will receive, though it is universally considered an unforgivable sin to eat it. I am so tired of watching my kin run off to die. So sick of watching the decomposing corpses of children on the battlefield. Sick of the constant strife that plagues this world. That's why it is my dream to bring about a true peace to these lands. To usher in a new era where children don't have to fight anymore and one where families aren't split apart. I will accomplish this dream, even if I must break the world's ultimate taboo to do so. I am Naruto Otsutsuki, and I will save this dying world. Outside of the Otsutsuki compound, a young teenage girl of about 15 years of age sat in deep thought on the ledge of the plateau that the compound was built upon. She had shoulder-length white hair that was styled into a bob as well as light blue eyes. She wore an ankle-length white hime kimono with black megatama designs stitched down the middle of the gown along with intricate lines around the sleeves and hemline. This is Kaguya Otsutsuki, heiress of the famed Otsutsuki clan. She gazed down into the distant land below the mountains and was saddened at yet another battle her kinsmen were fighting in. Is there no end to this conflict? To be born, live, and die on the battlefield. Is that our destiny? She thought sullenly. You shouldn't scrunch up your face like that. You might get wrinkles. A boyish voice teased from behind her. She turned around and noticed a grinning teen of about the same age as her was standing there. He had neck-length spiky red hair with two bangs framing his face that were partially wrapped in white medical tape as well as twinkling amethyst-colored eyes. The teen wore a white kimono with a high collar that was left partially open down to the top of his chest and 6 black megatama designs stitched around the bottom it, black cargo pants, and wooden geta sandals. Kaguya's eyebrow twitched slightly and with all the dignity she could muster, she replied, "I'll have you know that I am merely indeed thought. As a teenager, I am unlikely to develop wrinkles quite yet anyways. I am Kaguya, what's your name?" The young man took a seat next to her and kicked his feet back and forth over the ledge. "Wellheim-chan, my name is Naruto Otsutsuki, son of General Hideo. So, what's the heiress doing out here all by her lonesome?" he asked with a quirked eyebrow. Kaguya pointed at the conflict below and said, "I was wondering if there will ever be an end to the wars. Since the beginning of recorded history, the elemental nations have been caught in a period of endless warfare. And I'm tired of seeing our kin die out there. Is there truly a way to end all of this? Is it our destiny to live our lives out on the battlefield?" Naruto went silent in thought for several minutes, then he grew a smile. "I do not believe that we are destined to live and die in warfare. I think anybody with the will to do so will change the world. It sounds like it's your dream to see world peace. Well, it's my dream too. Tell me, have you been told of the Shinju and its fruit?" "Of course I have, you idiot. The Shinju and its fruit are known to almost everyone." She deadpanned, causing Naruto to laugh and sheepishly scratch the back of his head. He, I kinda forgot about that. All these damn war meetings that Odo-sama forces me to attend are turning my brain into mush." He apologized with a grin. Kaguya looked at her companion incredulously and thought, how can someone forget something like that? Is he a moron? No, he is intelligent, but his personality makes him look like an idiot. His eyes practically scream wisdom beyond his years. Naruto grew serious and said, "Well, since the fruit of the Shinju grows once every millennia, and it supposedly grants godlike power to the consumer, I have an idea. You and me, we go to the Shinju in a few years when the fruit has grown and we both eat half of it. We can use our new powers to quell the wars, and over time, we can teach humanity how to get along peacefully once they are willing to listen to us. How about it? Wait. Your plan for world peace is to break the one taboo that applies to every living person and basically force everyone to get along once they realize they can't stand against us?" The white-haired girl asked with a raised eyebrow. Naruto shook his head. "No, forcing them to get along won't work. What's stopping them from going back to war after we die? The best way is to use our powers to quell all the wars and actually teach them to respect the peace, instead of constantly threatening them with our power." After some contemplation, Kagaya held up her hand with a wide grin similar to his own. "I suppose all rules are broken eventually. But if we are to be partners for this, we should have a proper introduction. My name is Kagaya Otsutsuki, heiress of our clan. I like that new ramen dish the cooks fixed up recently, nature, walks, rabbits, and the clan. I dislike war, unnecessary violence, people who purposely harm nature, broccoli, and those who would harm my family. My hobbies are taking walks through the clan's garden, sitting out here, talking with people who won't treat me like a piece of fragile porcelain due to my status in the clan, and reading. My dream is to have my own family and bring peace to the world." Naruto smiled and shook her hand. "My name is Naruto Otsutsuki, son of the clan's general and next in line to inherit his position. I also like ramen, walking, practical jokes, defying expectations, training, nature, foxes, and talking to beautiful white-haired girls like the one in front of me. I dislike people who cast me into the shadow of my father, wars, unnecessary violence, those who would harm my precious people and/or nature, raw vegetables, and people who have sticks shoved up their asses. My hobbies include pranking people, training, going for walks, and writing. My dream is to bring peace to the world, then have a family. That way my children will never have to live in this time period of endless warfare." He exclaimed happily. Kaguya's cheeks turned a little pink at what he said about her and his likes, then she smirked and said, "I believe this is going to be a great partnership, Naruto-kun." "I believe so as well, Haim-chan," he replied with an ever-widening smile. And so with that fateful meeting concluded, a chain of events would soon occur that would completely change the destiny of the elemental nations for ages to come. 3 years later, Central Land of Fire. Naruto and Kagaya stood on top of a mountain overlooking the Shinju. The tree itself was at least 3 miles wide and about 7 miles tall, with a thick canopy of green leaves at the top with a single purple flower that has not yet bloomed. At the base of the great tree, there was a small opening that led inside the trunk, where the fruit would be waiting for them. They have received news that the Shinju has finally borne fruit, and told her father that they were going on a small vacation. Then they traveled for a week before finally arriving at their destination. Naruto and Kagaya have changed over the years, going from friends to best friends, then to boyfriend and girlfriend, and then to betrothed in an arranged marriage put together by their fathers. They couldn't be any happier though. Naruto fell in love with Kagaya at first sight, from her beautiful appearance to her rather unique personality. She likes to have fun with him, yet she isn't afraid to punish him when he does something wrong or acts too idiotic. Whereas he can be hyperactive and rather blunt, she is calm and gentle with a bit of a no-nonsense attitude. They were a bit different in personality, but they complemented each other perfectly, and no other couple loved each other as much as the two Otsutsuki love each other. Kagaya herself loves Naruto's boyish charm and his happy disposition. To her, he is the sun that brightly illuminates her path when things seem dark. She knows that he has the ability to make even the most depressed of people share his smile. Kagaya also appreciates his sense of fun. As an heiress, she is a bit socially awkward since her father hasn't deemed anyone aside from Naruto worthy to befriend her. But her love is able to bring her straight into the fray of whatever social function he takes part in and makes her feel like she belongs there. She even finds his not-so-smart moments to be rather cute, although she makes sure to correct him when he goes too far. It's safe to say that she has come to love every part of him. But their relationship wasn't the only thing that changed. At 18 years old, Naruto grew to a height of 6 feet and 1 inch, though his hair stayed the same in terms of style and length save for the small red goatee he grew on his chin. He also wore the same outfit, but he now wore black boots that the legs of his pants were tucked into instead of Geta sandals, as well as a necklace with 6 black megatama on it. He also had 9 black megatama designs stitched into the back of his kimono. Kagaya grew to a height of 5 feet and 10 inches, and her white hair also grew out to reach her waist. She also wore almost the same kimono design that she did as a child, but instead of reaching the floor, the hemline reached the middle of her thighs. Also, the gown hugged her impressive curves and medium-sized bust, and she had no sleeves. She also wore kung fu slippers with ankle-high tabi socks. Kagaya has taken to wearing ruby-colored lipstick and matching nail polish. Of course, she doesn't really need any makeup since Naruto thinks that her creamy pale skin is already perfect. Kagaya-hime, this is it. Once we eat that fruit, there is no going back. Are you sure you wish to do this with me? The young man asked his future wife, who smiled and interlaced her fingers with his. My beloved, you know that I would follow you into the depths of hell if I had to. So don't ask such a stupid question again. We swore 3 years ago that we'd do this and bring about the end of warfare, and I don't intend on letting you do it alone. I'm pretty much your wife after all. Right, Naruto-koi? She asked with a soft smile that, contrary to its appearance, screamed, if you don't answer correctly, I'm going to cut off your balls and feed them to you. Naruto chuckled and squeezed her hand. Of course you are. He looked into her soft blue eyes and said, and I would follow you anywhere you went as well. No matter what happens today, I love you, my beloved Kagaya-hime. She wrapped her arms around his neck and replied, and I love you, Naruto-koi. With that, he held her closer to him and gave his future wife a passionate and loving kiss before separating. Come Kagaya, we have a world to save. Naruto muttered and began to climb down the mountain with Kagaya trailing slightly behind him. Inside the Shinju's trunk, 30 minutes later, the couple looked around and was surprised at how empty the trunk was. You'd think that an omnipotent plant would have some kind of extravagance to it, but this is pretty boring. Naruto whined and felt a fist smash into the back of his head. Baka, quit your complaining and look for the fruit. Kagaya scolded with a tick mark as her eyes scanned the tree. After a while of walking, she noticed that there was a wooden pedestal resting against the wall at the other end of the Shinju with a medium-sized golden fruit sitting on top of it. Finally, we are so close to our dream that I can taste it. In fact, I think I will taste it. Naruto exclaimed jokingly while slicing the fruit in half with a knife to where it was almost even, but his side had a little bit more. He handed Kagaya her half and smiled. Cheers, they both said, and with that, they both consumed the forbidden fruit. Suddenly, the two Otsutsuki dropped to their knees with their faces contorted into a silent scream of agony. It feels like someone set my veins on fire, and my head's killing me. Naruto thought, barely holding on to his consciousness as he began to feel the same excruciating pain in his eyes. What is this? I feel so much power right now, but it hurts so much. Kagaya thought as she looked to her lover, who passed out onto the ground, face first. Damn it, she whispered and slumped to the ground as her vision faded into black. The next morning, Naruto opened his eyes slowly and sat upright with his legs crossed. He looked at Kagaya and blinked twice before screaming like a little girl. MMMNNNG. Why are you screaming? Nah, Ruto-koi. What the fuck? Kagaya screamed and jumped to an upright position after observing her lover's new additions to his appearance. Naruto's skin had paled and he had grown 2 horns on both sides of his forehead, while in between the horns was a red circle with a dot in the middle and a ripple pattern extending from it. Oddly enough, his once amethyst eyes had turned into something similar to the marking on his forehead, except with 9 tomo on the ripples that extended from his pupil. Kagaya-hime, your eyes turned white and you have 2 big-ass horns. We gotta find a priest somewhere, you need an exorcist. He panicked, getting a slap to the back of the head from Kagaya. Baka, you look even weirder than I do. Your eyes look funny and you also have horns, so don't judge me. She huffed. Naruto stood up after he calmed down and looked at his hands, which had a yellow mark resembling the sun on his right palm while a purple crescent moon was on his leg palm. I can feel so much power coursing through my veins, and I already have knowledge about my powers. How about you? He asked his companion. I also have knowledge about my abilities. Seems as though eating the fruit gave it to us along with the power itself. Though, we still need to train to use it properly. What should we call it anyways? She asked. Naruto grinned and answered, chakra. I don't know why, but chakra sounds right. Now, we should leave and master our abilities as soon as possible. Our dream is almost completed, Kaguya-hime. The white-haired woman smiled and latched onto Naruto's hand with her own, and they left the Shinju, unaware that the flower on top of the tree bloomed to reveal a single eye resembling Naruto's new ones, which radiated pure malice. And so for 2 years, Kaguya-hime and I traveled the world unbeknownst to anyone from our clan. It took some very hard work, but we both completely mastered our abilities. Kaguya discovered that she can manipulate her bones and that she can turn her left eye into the same technique that I possess, which I dubbed the Rinnegan. Her natural eyes, she named the Byakugan, which grants her a 360-degree field of vision and the ability to see the chakra pathways and chakra points we now possess. Her Rinnegan, however, is different than mine. Kaguya can use hers to teleport herself and other people to dimensions that she can completely control, as well as anywhere in the world she can picture in her mind, an ability she named Amanamanaka. My Rinnegan grants me several abilities that, quite frankly, are pretty godlike in nature. First, there are the 6 paths of samsara, the Deva, Preta, Asura, Human, Animal, and Naraka paths. Plus, there is a 7th path that governs over life and death, which I call outer path since it resides outside the normal 6 paths. Deva grants me the most devastating power to control gravity itself. Preta allows me to absorb chakra even though I probably won't ever need that path. Asura allows me to turn my limbs into mechanized weapons that have rather devastating power. Human path allows me to read the minds of whomever I use it on, as well as rip their souls out. Animal path lets me summon many animals that I can control with my eyes. And Naraka path allows me to heal anyone with it or interrogate someone by summoning the King of Hell. These powerful eyes also give me the ability to see the flow of chakra within a person, predict their movements, copy techniques, and preform unique jutsu. The name we came up with for chakra-related techniques. They are Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, Koto Amatsukami, Susanoo, and Kamui. Tsukuyomi allows me to trap someone in an illusionary world for 3 days, where I could do anything to them and they can't escape unless they have eyes or chakra of equal or greater power than I. Amaterasu allows me to attack someone with black flames of the sun goddess, which will burn for multiple days, until the target is completely incinerated, or until I command it to stop. Koto Amatsukami lets me subtly control someone by implanting false suggestions within their mind with this nigh unbreakable genjutsu, illusionary technique. Susanoo lets me summon an ethereal chakra warrior to aid me in battle, as it is easily my most devastating jutsu for the Sharingan portion of my eyes, as I once obliterated several mountains with one attack while I had this jutsu activated. And finally, Kamui allows me to teleport to any location I can think of while using a personal pocket dimension as storage for anyone or anything I suck in with this jutsu. Finally, I also possess another dojutsu, ocular technique, called the Tensigan, but I'll go into that another time. Both Kaguya and I are able to manipulate the elements themselves, though she has more power in her elemental attacks. An even trade if you ask me. My dojutsu outclasses hers completely, but her elemental jutsu are so strong she can't make hand seals to control them. She literally sends out blasts of the elements through taijutsu katas. A.N. Think of bending from Avatar, while I must use hand seals. The downside for her is that while hers is more powerful than mine, she will never have my level of control. I even discovered I have 2 sub-elements, wood style and magnet style, which I use to control particles of iron, gold, and sand that may be found within the earth. One final ability we both learned is something I call Sage Mode, which is activated when we absorb the natural chakra that the Shinju has constantly released into the air for ages. It enhances our abilities many times over, and it gives me markings on my face, while Kaguya's eyes just turn gold. And so, after 2 long years, we were ready to finally bring peace to the world. I am not so foolish to believe that humanity will stop warring just because Kaguya and I can scare them into obedience. Many people are set in their ways, and hopefully we can convince them peacefully to end their petty feuds and live their lives in harmony. If not, perhaps someone may inherit our will after we have departed this world. 2 years later, Central Land of Water. 2 samurai armies stood on opposite sides of the flat and mist-filled field. The two leaders galloped towards each other on their horses and met in the middle. Hattori Dono, Yoshi Tokugawa-sama, daimyo of the Land of Water, demands your immediate surrender. Do so, and you and each of your men will be granted a personal estate on these lands. Failure to comply means total annihilation. The one in blue armor, the daimyo's brother Hayate Tokugawa, announced in an official tone. Kiroitsuchi Hattori, leader of a famous samurai clan and the other warrior wearing golden armor, grunted in amusement. You think me a fool, Tokugawa Dono? Your brother is a spineless coward who would murder us in our sleep not even a week after a hypothetical surrender. My comrades and I refuse to lay our arms down, and we shall not bend our knees to someone who won't even come to lead his own men like a respectable ruler. He replied amicably as he directed his steed to trot back to his army, smirking as he heard the other commander sputter indignantly. How about we give you all a third option? Another male voice offered, causing everyone to look towards the middle of the field in surprise. There stood Naruto and Kagaya, looking identical to how they looked after eating the Shinju's fruit, save for their dojutsu being deactivated for the moment. How about you all lay down your arms and we won't end this silly war by ourselves with force? Naruto continued. Suddenly, the two leaders simultaneously burst into laughter. You would end our war by yourselves? You look like unarmed nobles for Kami's sake. Who the hell are you two anyway? The Hattori clan leader chuckled. Kagaya chuckled herself and said, We are the two people who dared to break this world's ultimate taboo. We are the light in the darkness. We are the saviors of this world. You two ate the Shinju's fruit? Well then, Hattori unsheathed his katana. You should know that even thinking about it is a universal death sentence. He muttered ominously. Naruto closed his eyes with a smirk. Well then, why don't you try it? With that, he snapped his eyes open, revealing his Rinnegan Sharingan to the world for the first time. He held out his hand and said two simple words that would forever haunt the dreams of this battle's survivors. Shinra Tensai. Suddenly, the Hattori clan was blown away by an invisible force that completely devastated the ground in front of him. Tokugawa looked on in pure shock. Nothing like this had ever been seen in the world before, and with two words this red-haired man turned an army of 500 into less than 50 living soldiers and annihilated the earth itself. Attack! He screamed fearfully and retreated to the area behind his army, which dashed towards these two mortal gods with a loud roar. Naruto turned to his lover with a cheeky grin. You want to go at this? If I go again, there won't be any left for you. She smiled and kissed his cheek. Oh Naruto Koi, you're so good to me. Kagaya cooed and floated up into the air with her fists cocked back. And with a single punch she unleashed hell upon her enemies in the form of a massive wave of azure flames that incinerated a majority of their army, leaving approximately 100 shocked soldiers. Naruto nodded to her and she used Amanamanaka to teleport the survivors and her lover off of the mainland and onto a small island off of the coast of the country. Please spare us, I have a family, Tokugawa pleaded to the two people he now saw as gods in human flesh. In response, Naruto looked at him with a smile as he put his hands into the ram hand seal. Do not worry, I will not kill any more of you. As an act of good faith, behold, outer path. Rinnegan Tensai. He shouted, causing the king of hell to rise from the ground and shoot off hundreds of green orbs from its mouth. Much to the awe of everyone there, their dead comrades were teleported to their location, looking as if they had never died. My Kami, what in the hell are you? To control life and death. The newly resurrected Hattori muttered with widened eyes. Naruto merely clapped his hands as Kagaya began to go through taijutsu katas. Chibaku Tensai. He roared and threw a glowing black ball that formed in between his palms at the mainland. Suddenly, the ground began to rumble and the mainland completely broke apart, causing the earth to gather at the black ball. After several seconds, a good portion of the Land of Water was now a gigantic sphere of earth that floated in the sky, and there was a gaping hole where the land used to be within the ocean. Kagaya then bent the elements to her will, creating a sphere of wind and a ring of earth, azure fire, and water that circled the Chibaku Tensai. We are the ones who shall establish peace and order. They responded to Hattori in unison. As the couple turned around to face the defeated samurai, they noticed that all of the warriors had dropped to their knees in reverence. You are no mere humans. You are gods sent to deliver us from evil. Please, what are your names? One of the men asked. I am Naruto Otsutsuki and this is my wife, Kagaya Otsutsuki. We have consumed the forbidden fruit of the Shinju for the sole purpose of bringing world peace. So I shall tell you this. Humanity must come to trust one another for this accursed era of warfare to end. I can see the light at the end of this dark tunnel, and this shall be where our revolution starts. People, you now have the chance to lay down your arms for good and carve a path towards a better future for mankind. Tell me, do you wish to create this world of dreams? A world where children won't have to fight and where we can grow old enough to taste sake? He asked and smiled when he saw a figurative fire in each of their eyes as they tossed their weapons to the ground. Naruto-sama, Kagaya-sama, please teach us the proper path, Hattori requested. The couple looked into each other's eyes with a bright smiles and allowed the Chibaku Tensei to crumble into the ocean, forming several new islands. Kagaya Haim, Naruto Koi, we are almost there. They both thought happily. Over the course of a year, Kagaya and I systematically ended every last war that were being waged across the globe. Using our godlike powers and our preaching, which we call Ninshu, we inspired people all over lands to give up on fighting and to strive for peace using the chakra we gave them to understand one another. And we finally accomplished our dream. The world is completely at peace, though it came with the side effect of being worshipped like gods. Kagaya is called the rabbit goddess for her horns, which look like rabbit ears. I am known as Bishaman, the god of war and justice. The definition should be self-explanatory. And so, 3 years after ending the wars at the age of 23, Kagaya and I got married and we decided to move out of the Otsutsuki compound. Our clan was accepting of our abilities because of the reason we went to gain them. It doesn't hurt that we were successful, and into our own place that I built with my wood-style jutsu. Not long after that, she became pregnant and bore me 2 beautiful children that just so happened to inherit our chakra and some of our special abilities. 3 years later, home of the Otsutsuki family, land of Earth Mountains. Naruto paced through the wooden home with a nervous expression on his more mature face. Kagaya was giving birth to their child and the damn doctor won't let him comfort his beloved. He stopped pacing for a moment and thought, well, she did scream that she was going to castrate me right before I was thrown out. Suddenly, the doctor came out of the master bedroom with a smile. You may come in now, Naruto-sama. You have twins, by the way, she informed before walking away to take care of something. Naruto dashed into the room and what he saw made his heart leap in joy. Kagaya laid upon her bed with his 2 sons cradled into her chest while she wept slightly. One of the boys appeared to have inherited his spiky red hair, while the other looked like he would inherit Kaguya's features. Kagaya Haim, you've done wonderfully. And look at our 2 beautiful children, he exclaimed and began to babble at the infants, who nearly tilted their head in confusion at the eccentric man. The white-haired smiled tearfully and said, I don't think IW want to cut you off anymore. He paled and asked, you weren't joking about that? Her lack of a response pretty much answered that question. So anyways, what shall we name them? Kagaya questioned and handed Naruto the red-haired baby. This one. His name shall be Hagoromo Otsutsuki. You should pick our other boy's name, he told his wife, who nodded and looked at the white-haired infant. Hamura Otsutsuki, she declared. With that, the family shared their first embrace. Unknown to both parents, the 2 children will play a great role in the fate of the future. 21 years later, Land of Rain. Loud explosions and battle cries echoed through the rain-drenched wasteland. To any normal observer, it would seem as though blurs were clashing repeatedly, but suddenly, they stopped and split apart with 2 men on one side and 1 older man on the other. These people are the 21-year-old Hagoromo and Hamura Otsutsuki and their father, the legendary Naruto Otsutsuki. Hagoromo has grown to the same height as his father and 6 feet and 1 inch, and he has spiky red hair with 1 bandaged bang framing the left side of his pale face along with a small goatee, and purple rippled eyes along with 2 horns and a red marking resembling the pattern of his eyes on the middle of his forehead. He wore identical clothes to his father as well, except on the back of his kimono. He has a purple circle with his eyes pattern within stitched above the 9 black megatama. Hamura, however, looked mostly like Kagaya. He stood at the height of 5 feet and 10 inches and had waist-length straight white hair and the white eyes of the Byakugan. Hamura also wore the same outfit as his brother and father, but without any designs on the back of his kimono. Naruto only looked a bit older, with crow's feet on the corners of his eyes as well as small wrinkles on the corners of his mouth, and his once vibrant red hair color had dulled slightly. He also wore the same outfit that he had since he had completed his own training many years ago, except he has a design resembling his Rinnegan Sharingan above the Magatama on his back. The two brothers looked beat up from their sparring session, but Naruto just looked quite tired. Huff huff, you both have done well. Completely surpassed all of my expectations. The older man smiled proudly at his two sons. Are you okay, Two-san? It looks like your stamina isn't quite what it used to be. Hagoromo teased with Hamura snickering next to him. It's still enough to create you two little brats. Naruto muttered under his breath before putting his smile back on. I cannot teach you anymore. Hagoromo, you've mastered the Rinnegan's powers as well as your nature transformations and the truth-seeking balls. Hamura, you have also mastered the Byakugan and the Tenseigan as well as the truth-seeking balls and my Fuinjutsu. You are both ready for whatever lies ahead, he announced with a look of extreme pride. But before celebrations could truly begin, they all heard the most terrifying guttural roar they had ever heard, and a large and malicious pressure slammed into them, forcing the three men to their knees. What the hell was that? Hamura questioned, getting a shrug from his brother, but Naruto seemed to be staring out into space with a grim expression. I should have known that there would be repercussions for eating the Shinju's fruit. I'd recognize that chakra anywhere. It seems that the Shinju has taken a form that would allow it to actively try to reclaim its chakra. He thought before turning to his two sons. That pressure was very similar to the Shinju. Hagoromo, Hamura, I want you both to leave and get your mother. Naruto commanded. Hagoromo stepped forward with a determined expression. Two-san, we can help you defeat it. We are strong. The elder Otsutsuki turned around and glared at his sons slightly with his Rinnegan Sharingan active. Just do as I say. All three of us are worn out from our final training session, but I am the only one who has a possibility of defeating the Shinju in this tired state. Now, Hagoromo, yes? From this moment forth, you are the leader of Ninshu. Guide this world towards peace with your brother. I know you two can do it. Hamura, you are now the heir of the Otsutsuki clan. Rule honorably, my son. Naruto proclaimed and received hugs from his children. You better win, Two-san, or Ka-chan will have your head. Hamura joked, trying to hide his sadness. The red-headed man grinned in response. Don't worry about me, now go. Naruto watched as his sons dashed off into the distance and turned to face the monstrous being that was swiftly approaching. So you've come, Shinju, he muttered. The Shinju turned into a massive beast with a cavern-like mouth, extremely sharp teeth, a gray and veiny body with 10 tails waving maliciously behind it, large claws, as a single red eye in the middle of its head that looked identical to the Rinnegan Sharingan. A.N. Imagine the 10 tails first form. That shit probably would have frightened me more than its other forms did, so in this story, it only looks like this aside from the tree form. Human, you and that wench of yours stole my fruit and gained my power. Chakra is not meant for your destructive race's hands, so I'll be taking it back. Though I will give you one chance. Allow me to absorb my chakra and I won't kill you, your family, or those people you've given your chakra to for it. It offered in an extremely deep voice that was full of both anger and amusement. Naruto shook his head and flared his chakra, causing a silver aura to manifest itself outside his body, which completely shattered the ground below him due to its pure strength. This chakra, it's a tool for peace. With Ninshu, the people I have shared my chakra with have come to understand each other, and the world is now walking the path towards peace. I will not let you get in my way. The Otsutsuki roared defiantly. The Shinju chuckled darkly and flared its own godlike chakra. I was hoping that you'd say that, thief. The two godlike figures stood on opposite sides of the battlefield, one determined to keep chakra for the sake of mankind and the other wishes to retrieve what once belonged to him. The battle that will be spoken of for ages is about to begin. Naruto glared into the rage-filled orb of the Shinju as their combined power shook the earth itself. Red markings appeared around his eyes with 2 stripes going down underneath them, and he clapped his hands together. Sage art. Wood style. True several thousand hands. He called out, and suddenly, he found himself standing on top of a gargantuan wooden statue of a Buddha with several thousands of wooden hands raised behind it. Interesting, but still weak. The Shinju noted with amusement and swung a single tail at the construct, completely obliterating it much to the shock of Naruto, who managed to get away from the attack. I had destroyed one of my most powerful wood-style jutsu with a single attack. He whispered in awe before gaining a determined look and thrusting both arms forward. Sage Art. Shinra Tensai. What the beast was interrupted when it was violently flung across the battlefield, digging a large canyon that stretched several miles from the point where it landed. Naruto instantly appeared above it, floating in the air with a transparent white cube in his hand. Dust style. Detachment of the primitive world. He growled and launched the cube at his foe, expanding as it hit the Shinju's gray skin and bathing the land in light. As the dust that kicked up around them cleared, dark laughter filled Naruto's ears landed on left side of the canyon. Jihihihi. Did you think that'd reduce me to dust, mortal? The Shinju mocked, and as it appeared through the smoke, it revealed that it only had a few scratches on its skin. I will give you credit though, that move hurt. But, it's my turn. With that, it lashed out at the canyons its claw. Naruto's eyes widened and he jumped away, narrowly escaping the destruction the Shinju brought onto the newly formed canyon. Shit. None of my attacks are doing any damage, and prayed a path would be useless. The Shinju is pretty much chakra given physical form, and trying to absorb that much would only kill me. That and it would be laughable if it died that easily. He let out a mirthless chuckle as he landed on the lower ground in front of his enemy. Not that it would matter, as weakened as I am from my battle with Hagoromo in Hamura, I probably won't survive this confrontation anyways. I just need to think of a way to give those two a bit more time to deal with the Shinju. I'm tired of your existence. The massive beast roared and began to collect chakra into its mouth in the shape of a gargantuan crimson ball. Alarmed, Naruto swiftly went through hand seals and screamed, Sage Art, gracious deity gates. As the Shinju was almost ready to fire its attack, 11 red Torii gears fell from the sky and pinned its tails and head to the ground. Seeing as his target was immobilized, Naruto created 4 wood clones that stood around the beast in a box formation with their hands in a ram seal. 4 red yang formation. The clones roared, causing a gigantic red box with a single hole in the top, made from chakra, to trap the Shinju within. Naruto began to pant from overusing his chakra, but shook it off with a strong glare and raised both of his arms, causing a tsunami of gold dust to rise from underneath the Shinju and completely cover it like a cocoon. Gold dust grand coffin, he muttered, A.N. I don't exactly remember the names of the gold dust techniques, nor if the ones I create actually exist in canon, so bear with me. With that, the beast fired its attack, completely blasting away the gold dust. Luckily, the barrier didn't fall. Instead, the attack shot up through the hole on top of it and exploded into a gigantic crimson beam of light, the power of which completely shook the earth. You are powerful indeed, mortal. To be able to keep my tailed beast bomb from wiping this country off the map with a simple barrier that's being maintained by weak clones. I will no longer hold back. It announced after it finished its attack and used its massive physical strength to smash its bindings and the barrier itself. It broke through my strongest barrier, with brute force. Wait, what is it doing? He muttered to himself as he noticed the Shinju's head being thrown back as if it were about to scream to the heavens. He felt it. The foul chakra of the god tree filled the atmosphere and within everything in the environment, nearly bring him to his knees. Thinking quickly, he channeled chakra into both of his eyes and whispered, Susanoo. Then, hell was unleashed. Tenpenchi, the Shinju roared to the heavens. Its potent chakra bombarded the Otsutsuki relentlessly, creating natural disasters one after another in hopes of annihilating him. Tornadoes, floods, lightning storms, and earthquakes struck the lands as if they were the wrath of God himself. It made the current standing of the Shinju quite clear. It no longer wanted to take its chakra back from Naruto. It wanted to wipe his existence from the face of the planet. After several minutes of what could be interpreted as the apocalypse, the Shinju stopped roaring and called its chakra back into its body. Its single eye narrowed in on a figure hidden by the smoke and it smirked darkly. You are indeed a worthy opponent. To even survive Tenpenchi is a testament to your prowess. But I'm afraid I have some chakra to hunt down, so I think I'll kill you right, huh? It began to taunt, but stopped when it noticed that Naruto stood within an ethereal silver knight-like figure which had 2 sets of arms that formed hand seals along with the Otsutsuki. Naruto himself looked worse for the wear. Despite his Susanoo shielding him from being completely annihilated, he was cut up all over his body with an X-shaped cut on his left cheek, and his kimono was almost completely shredded. That didn't stop him from glaring defiantly at the beast and finishing the hand seals for one of his ultimate Rinnegan jutsu. Sage Art, Tenho Metsubo. He screamed, "Trans! Heavenly downfall!" The Shinju looked upwards and saw the rainy clouds completely darken. Its eyes quickly widened when it saw that the clouds broke apart to reveal hundreds of flaming meteors falling towards the earth. "You fool! Don't you realize that the meteors will kill you too?" It screamed with fear in its eye. Naruto merely gave the beast a cheeky grin and vanished in a swirl, angering it further as the meteors repeatedly barraged the landscape. Meanwhile, near the border of the land of earth and the land of rain, Kagaya Otsutsuki and her sons looked to the sky and gaped in awe at the flaming meteors that plummeted towards the earth and slightly wobbled at the earthquakes that followed their landing. Even though I have witnessed Naruto Koi's Tenho Metsubo before, it's still pretty amazing and terrifying, she muttered, getting her two children to nod in agreement. But something like that must be very chakra-consuming. If Toussaint was forced to use it, he must be in quite a bit of trouble. Hagoromo shouted in concern. Hamura looked towards their mother and asked, "Mother, can't you use Amanamanaka to teleport us to his location?" She shook her head. "I can only use it to teleport to places I can picture in my head. When your father went to spread Ninshu to the land of rain's nomads, I was pregnant with you too, so he kind of forced me to rest at home. Luckily for the nomads, he convinced them to move towards the land of whirlpools, or they probably wouldn't have survived the Tenho Metsubo." Kagaya suddenly gained a dreadful feeling in the pit of her stomach. "Let's move faster. I'm starting to get a bad feeling," she commanded, and they began to move so fast that they looked like blurs amongst the trees they were traveling on. 10 minutes later, Naruto vs. Shinju battleground. Naruto appeared through a swirling vortex and landed on top of a large platform of earth, attempting to look through the thick smoke that covered the annihilated landscape. "Did that kill it?" He huffed in exhaustion. The Otsutsuki patriarch scanned the smoke with his rippled eyes and frowned when he couldn't see anything through the smoke. "I only have enough chakra left to use my seal, and I highly doubt the Shinju, a godlike entity, would die from something like Tenho Metsubo. Even if that jutsu is the second most powerful Rinnegan technique, as far as I'm aware," he thought as his eyes barely caught something blurring out of the thick cloud. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen, and what he saw when he looked down made his eyes widen in shock as blood dripped from the corners of his mouth. A long and sharp wooden spear was impaling his stomach, so much to the point where there was still a foot of bloody wood exposed on both sides of his body. Naruto gasped in pain and fell to his knees, glaring angrily at the emerging form of the battered Shinju. "Why, you survived. Not so surprising. Hey, at least that jutsu damaged you a bit," he gritted out with a weak laugh. The Shinju gained a surprisingly respectful look on its monstrous face. "If I was any other creature, even with my level of power, that would have killed me. I greatly respect you now for that, but you signed your own death sentence because of one thing." It dropped the respectful expression and adopted a dark and victorious one. "You assumed that it was possible to kill me. I am not made of flesh and bone, but out of chakra itself. You cannot kill the air, nor can you kill water or kill energy itself. I will admit this though. I have no doubt that you may have beaten me if you didn't think I was just an extremely powerful beast." It growled out, indignant at the thought of a mere human defeating it, power incarnate. Naruto began to cough up blood and felt his strength starting to leave him. I also made a mistake, Shinju. You thought that I can't harm you. But I do have one chakra RT that is only limited by my imagination." He muttered as his right index finger began to glow silver. The Otsutsuki smiled victoriously as he drew patterns into the space in front of him, which were mirrored on the ground below the Shinju. Amusing. You truly believe you can still win in your pitiful condition? I'll let you preform your final stand, if only to crush your hopes to dust." It stated bemusedly. Naruto gave it a bloody grin and preformed a single ram seal, causing the array below the beast to glow a bright silver. "I know that I can't defeat you in my current state. I could if I started the battle at 100%, and you know I had too. I have a feeling you purposely came after me once I was already tired for that reason anyways. But, with T this seal, you will be imprisoned within this very spot F for 5 years. Once you are freed, I am positive that the ones who will defeat you will be already. He stated, thinking of his 2 sons. Now, be gone, Shinju. Fuinjutsu. Quadruple God Heavenly Prison Seal. Naruto roared and pumped all of his remaining chakra into this final technique. 5 silver chains shot out of the seal and impaled the thrashing Shinju while a circular golden portal replaced appeared behind the beast. When I get out of here, I'm going to destroy everything you love. From your pathetic children to your precious followers of that ninchu. I think I'll even take a human form, so that once my conquest is done, I'll forcefully claim your woman. She will be mine until the end of time itself. The Shinju howled in rage as the chains dragged it through the portal. I hate to disappoint you, but you won't have the chance. Hagoromo and Hamura, they'll put an end to you. Fuin, Naruto whispered, causing the portal to close and the original seal to appear in the devastated earth. Use your imaginations for the seal's design. He smiled as he felt 3 familiar chakra signatures appear in the area and whispered, just in time. Amethyst eyes snapped open to see a cloudless blue sky above them, though it was obscured by a canopy of branches and leaves. Their owner sat up from his position on a soft field of grass to look at his body. It appeared much younger than he remembered being, about 18 years old in fact. Who was he again? That's right, he was Naruto Otsutsuki. Naruto stood up and cracked a small smile, seeing that he was in a replica of his backyard on a beautiful summer day. The area where his willow tree resided, in fact. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath of fresh air, allowing the refreshing breeze to caress his face and ruffle his white kimono. This takes me back. How long has it been since I died? He looked over at the base of the great willow and saw a random campfire that appeared to be playing some sort of recording. Naruto saw his beloved wife as children stand by a freshly dug grave with a small tombstone at the head. He noticed that it was his own and read the epitaph with a sad smile. Here lies Naruto Otsutsuki, beloved father and husband, seeker of peace and founder of Ninshu. Rest in peace, he recited and sat down against the tree. I wish I could have stayed with you all, he mumbled. And so, Naruto spent a millennia watching the various happenings within the living world. He watched on proudly as his children defeated the Shinju, which they dubbed the 10 Tails, by sealing it within Hagoromo's body. He also saw how the common folk revered his children and dubbed Hagoromo, the sage of the 6 paths, and Hamura, the white-eyed god. He watched on in sadness as Kagaya finally broke in her mourning on the 10th anniversary of his death and commuted suicide on top of his grave. He already figured out that this place he was currently spending the afterlife in was actually a reincarnation waiting area, since he hasn't once met a deceased loved one. It made him even more depressed, knowing he cannot join his beloved in the afterlife. Naruto watched happily as both Hamura and Hagoromo gave him and Kagaya grandchildren. He saw as Hamura left with the clan and one of his children to guard the Shinju's mummified corpse that was sealed into the moon, and how Hagoromo used Banbutsu Sozo to split its chakra into 9 living entities, the Biju. He became angry when he saw Indra and Asura, Hagoromo's children, fight to the death over who will be the heir of Ninshu. He was even more furious when his former followers saw how Asura and Indra weaponized chakra and decided to do so themselves, giving birth to ninjutsu and throwing the world back into a deadlier era of warfare. Though, he didn't hate non-violent ninjutsu, such as medical ninjutsu. And those traitors had the gall to pray to Bishamon to bless their sides in battle. Naruto felt his hope for the ninja world return when Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha put an end to the era of warring states by creating the hidden villages. He also became happy that Hagoromo's bloodline finally came together for something non-violent for the first time since Indra and Asura's teenage years. Then he became extremely livid at both Hashirama and Madara. Hashirama for capturing the Biju and handing his surrogate grandchildren to the other villages like fucking pets. Then Madara betrayed his home and forcefully made Kurama, the 9-tailed fox, fight against his will. Naruto became angry at the Biju's enslavement through the creation of Jinchuriki. He became even more furious at the Jinchuriki's treatment, even though most of them had no say in the matter, as well as how people treated his grandchildren like fucking demons. He saw the three great shinobi world wars. He saw Kurama's forced attack and how he had been sealed into one of his last living descendants on Hagoromo's side, Naruto Uzumaki. He chuckled in amusement that the brat shared his name. He saw Uzumaki's abuse at the hands of the villagers in the form of being starved of attention from everyone, save from the third Hokage, Hiruzen, and a family of ramen chefs. He smiled warmly at seeing the child's declaration that he would prove the villagers wrong by becoming the Hokage and protecting them all. He felt pride for the child as he became a shinobi. He saw Uzumaki befriend another descendant of his, Sasuke Uchiha, and his other teammate, Sakura Haruno. He frowned upon seeing Kakashi Hitaki's obvious favoritism towards Sasuke. He saw how the wave mission shaped Uzumaki's beliefs as a ninja. He watched as Team 7 made it through the Chunin exams. And now, Naruto was watching Jiraiya of the Sannin teach his descendant how to summon the same toads he once summoned. Speaking of summons, I wonder how Gamamaru, Hebimaru, and Katsuyu are doing. I really want to share some of my special sake with them like old times. But Gamamaru Baka just had to copy my damn recipe and mass produce it amongst the Toad clan. Naruto grumbled as he stood up and started to stretch. Note to self. Kill that Orochimaru Gaki and snap Tsunade out of her drunkenness if I'm reincarnated within their lifetime. Your wish just might be granted. Naruto Otsutsuki. A voice stated from behind him, making the ancient man alert. He turned around to see a ghastly figure which had purple skin, sharp black teeth, a wild mane of spiky white hair, and a purple kimono. So, the Shinigami comes to visit. Why? He asked. The death god merely pointed at the fire, which revealed Uzumaki lying in a pool of his own blood at the bottom of his canyon. Your time wasn't supposed to end at your battle with the Shinju. You were supposed to defeat it yourself and complete the spreading of Ninshu. It would have brought about eternal peace to the world, and you would have died of old age sometime after witnessing the birth of your great-grandchildren. Since that didn't happen, Kami has decided to let you be revived in the modern world. The catch is that you will inhabit Naruto Uzumaki's body, which will change to your appearance at the age of 18. It explained, wait, what will happen to my descendant's soul if I inhabit his body, and what's the catch? Naruto asked. Naruto Uzumaki's soul has already been sent to the afterlife, where he exists happily with his deceased parents. He has no problem with the arrangement as long as you become Hokage in his stead, as he is finally at peace in death. And the catch? Shinigami smirked bemusedly. The Rinnegan Tensei Jutsu is a complete affront to my domain, so I am taking it from you. Though I will allow you 2 uses to revive a single person. The first will be used to revive Kagaya whenever you choose to do so, and she will be at the same age as you. The second use will be for whoever you choose, but be warned. Upon completing the second usage, you will be killed and your soul will be mine. Do you accept? He asked. Naruto looked thoughtful. My descendant has no problem with it. I can resurrect Kagayaheim as well. And I can finally see to it that our dream is completed permanently. He looked up resolutely and nodded his head. I accept. Very well. Good luck, Naruto. Shinigami stated, and with a flash of light, the Otsutsuki was reborn. A sharp intake of breath filled his lungs. His amethyst eyes darted back and forth around the dark area, and noted that it was less than 5 minutes since his descendant's death. Time to make sure everything works. The man muttered. 10 fingers tapped on the dirt. Check. Toes wiggled inside his ruined blue sandals. Check. A pair of arms swiftly slid along the stone floor, across the puddle of blood resting underneath his body. Check. He used his upper body strength to roll around on the floor, confirming that he wasn't paralyzed there. Check. He stood up and started to walk around, then jogged, and finally broke into a sprint before stopping with a smile. Everything checks out. Naruto Otsutsuki looked down at his body and grinned at seeing his 18-year-old body in the flesh, but his grin fell into a thin line upon noticing that he only wore a pair of bloodied and torn orange pants that barely covered the pelvis of his 6 feet, 1 inch tall frame and shredded blue sandals that his toes poked out of. This won't do, he stated and held up his hands, causing a red and a blue flame to appear in each palm. Yin-yang style. Banbutsu Sozo. Naruto suddenly found himself clad in his usual garb during his original lifetime. A white kimono that fell to his ankles with a split starting from the bottom of his waist, revealing a bait of black cargo pants tucked into black boots. The kimono had an open high collar with 6 black megatama stitchings on the neckline and on the top of the collar. On the back of the kimono, he had a red Rinnegan stitching with 9 black megatama underneath it in rows of 3. He also found that he couldn't wear the Konoha headband around his head, as they agitated his horns, and decided to change the cloth to a black color and wore it around his neck. Naruto ran his fingers through his long red hair and gained a hardened look in his eyes. First thing, I need to punish that pervert for killing Uzumaki. Second, inform Hiruzen of my identity since he will be my leader for a while. Third, assess my current power level. He listed and began to fly towards the top of the canyon. On top of the ledge, Jiraiya looked into the abyss with a panicked expression on his face. Oh man, I haven't heard a single sound come out of there, not have I seen a single puff of smoke. Naruto, please be alright. He rambled worriedly, but his eyes widened when he saw a very different looking Naruto floating up in midair in front of him. Is he floating? And what the fuck happened to you, kid? Naruto looked over at the pervert with hardened eyes. You made a grave mistake throwing Uzumaki off of this cliff, pervert. He stated ominously. Jiraiya was instantly alarmed by the young ninja's wording and shifted into a combat position. You just referred to yourself as if Naruto Uzumaki was a different person, so who are you? He yelled. Suddenly, the white-haired Sannin was forced to his knees by an enormous pressure that slammed into the area. He managed to look up and his eyes widened when he saw that it was the strange redhead that was creating it, with only pure chakra. You do not demand anything from me. I can and will wipe you from the face of the earth if you do so again, child. The Otsutsuki snarled. Jiraiya began to breathe heavily and thought, whoever this guy is, he's powerful. Way too powerful. If he can bring someone as strong as me to my knees just from the sheer power of his chakra, he isn't human. Finally, Naruto released the chakra pressure, much to Jiraiya's relief, and landed on the ground in front of him. Come Lecher, we must go to Hiruzen. All shall be explained once. I am sure we will have no extra ears listening to the conversation. He commanded and walked off towards Konoha, a grumbling Jiraiya trailing closely behind. Konohagakure. 15 minutes later. Naruto looked at the staring crowds with confusion etched on his face. Why are they staring at me? Did I do something inappropriate? He asked his companion. Jiraiya snorted in amusement. Well, it could be because you look like a friggin' monk with a Konoha headband rather than a ninja. It could also be that you walk around like nobility. Or perhaps it might be the itty-bitty little fact that you have fucking horns and a really weird tattoo on your forehead that resembles a Rinnegan, just like that little design on the back of your clothes. Naruto froze for a moment and smiled. That's right. Little Hagoromo is known as the Sage of the Six Paths and his possession of the Rinnegan is common knowledge. He murmured quietly enough to where nobody could hear him. After several minutes of walking, they entered a large red building and traveled to the highest floor. Upon knocking on a door, an elderly voice shouted, "Enter." As they walked in, the duo saw an old man with a white goatee wearing red and white robes smile at them. Jiraiya-kun, I thought you'd be training Naruto-kun right about now. And who might you be, young man? Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, asked. Jiraiya chuckled nervously. Well, you see. What the lecture means to say is that he threw Naruto Uzumaki into a canyon in hopes of making him utilize Kurama's chakra to summon a large toad. Naruto drawled, making said lecture pale. Jiraiya, what were you thinking? And where is Naruto? Hiruzen roared angrily. The Sannin whimpered while Naruto stepped forward after slapping a silencing seal on the wall. I'll explain that. I'm sorry, but there isn't an easy way to say this. Naruto Uzumaki is dead. He informed solemnly. The whole room went quiet, then an insane level of killing intent filled the room. Jiraiya, do you have any idea what you've done? The aged Hokage whispered in an eerily calm tone. The white-haired man bowed his head with tears leaking out of his eyes. Yes, and I will live with that for the rest of my life. I believed Naruto could do it, and he paid the price for my mistake. Do not fret over Uzumaki's fate. He is much happier where he is now. Both of the older men looked towards their guest. What do you mean? Hiruzen asked. Uzumaki went to the afterlife and is happily reunited with his family. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Naruto Otsutsuki, known as one of the 2 people to first gain chakra, the father of the Sage of the Six Paths, the founder of Ninshu, and as Bishaman. Naruto introduced, making the other two men's eyes widen. What? How are you still alive, if you are indeed that person? Jiraiya exclaimed. Naruto looked at him with a serious expression. In order to answer that, I must tell you my story. This will remain a secret between the three of us for now. If you speak of this to anyone before the time is right, I will end you both. Both men nodded and the Otsutsuki smiled. Long ago, before the era of chakra, the world was locked in a period of endless warfare. Back in those days, we also had clans that were typically made of samurai that fought for their daimyo. My clan, the Otsutsuki, were the strongest of them. You see, in the middle of the land of fire, there was a godlike entity known as the Shinju, or the God Tree. It was very passive when it came to the conflict as long as its one universal law was followed. One must never eat the forbidden fruit that grows within its trunk one every millennium. In fact, it was a universal death sentence across every nation for even attempting to do so. A tree contained such power that people were afraid to anger it, and would execute anyone who even tried to do something that would displease it. Hiruzen asked, getting a nod in return. Correct. Now, I was the son of the Otsutsuki clan's general or military leader. When I was young, I met a girl the same age as me, and we discussed our dreams, amongst other things. We both found out that we shared the dream of ending warfare. I came up with a theory that eating the forbidden fruit would grant us some of the Shinju's power, so we decided that we would both consume half of the fruit after we have trained out bodies and minds enough for traveling the land. And so, we left the clan without warning and began our journey a year later. Over that time period, we grew closer on the field of battle and over many trials and were eventually engaged via betrothal contract after we fell in love. Her name was Kaguya Otsutsuki. Naruto paused to allow a mournful tear to slip from his eyes. Once we reached the age of 18, we finally arrived at the Shinju's trunk. Upon venturing inside, we saw the fruit and we ate it, causing a searing pain to envelop our bodies that knocked us out. When we came to, we discovered that we both grew horns, our eyes had changed, and we had gained a godly form of power that is known today as chakra, though our chakra will always be more powerful than that of anyone else. After that, we trained to uncover and master all of our newfound powers. Kaguya gained the ability to manipulate bones, bend all of the elements as if they were an extension of herself, and she gained something known as the Byakugan in a weaker form of my dojutsu. I gained strong affinities for every element and some sub-elements: dust style, wood style, magnet style, yin style, yang style, and yin-yang style. But my strongest abilities are the Rinnegan, which is a combination of the Rinnegan and Sharingan, the Tensegan, and my adamantine sealing chains. That means, if you're telling the truth, you are the ancestor of several of the most powerful ninja clans in existence. Hiruzen shouted. Naruto grinned pridefully. Damn straight. His face became serious once more. After 2 years, we mastered most of our powers and we began to travel the world again, using our newfound abilities to end every single war that was being waged. In doing so, we gained followers who wished to hear our words of peace. We spread chakra to humanity and people gained the ability to empathize with one another while their chakras were connected. And after many years, peace was finally within our grasp. Not long afterwards, Kaguya bore me 2 sons, Hagoromo, the sage of the 6 paths, and Hamura Otsutsuki, the white-eyed god. For 21 years, everything was wonderful in the world. Kaguya and I trained our children to manipulate chakra, and watched them grow into fine men who would carry on our ideals. But tragedy struck when the Shinju came for me. Wait, how could it come for you when it is just a tree? Jiraiya asked. It was able to take on a mobile and monstrous form that enabled it to become completely sentient and capable of using its godlike powers. It is known to the world as the 10 Tails, the original Biju. It was on the final day of training my children that it attacked me. Hagoromo and Himura's final test was to face me in combat, and they weakened me greatly despite not being able to defeat me. The Shinju knew I would have defeated it if I were to battle it at full power, so it struck when it knew I was tired. After sending my children away to retrieve Kaguya, the Shinju and I had a fierce battle that greatly devastated the land of rain. Unfortunately, it caught me off guard and landed a fatal blow. My mistake was believing that it was a flesh and blood creature that could be killed. In reality, it was merely a massive construct of chakra that could only be sealed away. So I used my Fuinjutsu to seal it away for 5 years, giving my children enough time to prepare for their eventual battle with the monster. And I passed away after saying my goodbyes to my family. Naruto explained. Fascinating. So how did you come back? Hiruzen questioned. After I died, I wound up in a waiting area, where I was supposed to stay until I was reincarnated. From there, I watched the major events that followed my death. From the weaponization of chakra to Uzumaki's death. After the last event occurred, the Shinigami appeared before me as offered to bring me back to life. According to him, I was never supposed to die at the hands of the Shinju and I was going to complete my quest for eternal peace. Young Uzumaki gave me permission to use his body as a vessel for my spirit, as long as I become the Hokage in his stead. But in order to contain my powerful chakra and soul, this body changed to where it is identical to my own at the age of 18. As I've said, Uzumaki is in a much better place and the Shinigami stated that he is happy now that he is with his long-lost family. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair and took a large puff of his pipe. A fascinating tale, but I'm afraid I cannot believe you until you show me some proof. Naruto smirked and activated his Rinnegan, causing the 2-cage-level ninja to freeze at the sheer power that emulated from those eyes. Is this enough proof? He asked, getting 2 nods in return. Hiruzen and Jiraiya sighed in relief as he deactivated his dojutsu. Thank God. Those eyes makes me feel like an ant in comparison to him. The cage thawed. Naruto suddenly scowled. Great. My control is back to what it was around the age of 19. I can use some of my abilities at a mastery level, but I will need to train in the others or I'll accidentally destroy another country. He muttered in annoyance after feeling out his chakra levels. Jiraiya ignored that statement, as nothing from Naruto could really surprise him anymore, and asked, So, when do you plan on revealing yourself to the world? Naruto took a thinking pose and replied, partially at the finals. On one hand, revealing some of my abilities would show the world that I can defend the peace I intend to create and that I'm not afraid to eliminate any threats that arise. On the other hand, if I were to reveal that I am essentially a human with godlike power and that I am someone more powerful than the revered sage of the 6 paths, the other nations may grow fearful and try to destroy the village in order to kill me. I would rather have them wary than fearful and murderous. So, I will pretend to be Naruto Uzumaki until I have built up enough trust and friendship within the other villages to reveal my true identity. Though I refuse to be called Naruto Uzumaki, I am still very loyal to the Otsutsuki clan after all, so change my last name to Otsutsuki. Hiruzen nodded and said, All right, you two are dismissed. With that, Naruto and Jiraiya left after dismissing the silencing seals. Though, before they left, Jiraiya and Hiruzen looked at a picture of Minato Namikaze with sadness and thought, Minato, I'm sorry. Outside Konoha, 20 minutes later, after bidding farewell to Jiraiya, Naruto ventured into the forests outside of the village's walls. He stopped in a large clearing and muttered, First things first, time to see what abilities I can still use. Perhaps I can even kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He activated his Rinnegan, causing a black portal to appear in front of him. Amanamanaka, Naruto stepped through the portal and vanished. Mountains of the land of earth, plateau facing the land of rain. Naruto stepped onto solid red stone and looked forward, smiling at the place he has missed for a millennia. To the common eye, nothing was there but a pillar of black stone that had a golden etching at its base of a crescent moon with a circle inside of the curve. To Naruto, it was the key to dispelling the genjutsu he placed on the area over 1,000 years ago. He walked forward and placed his hand on the symbol, pumping chakra into it. Suddenly, the space in front of him quivered and revealed a large Japanese-styled castle with a gigantic willow tree towering over its structure from behind. It's been so long since I've been home, and it looks just as it did back then. Though the willow has grown quite a bit. Now, time to do what I came here for. Naruto stated with a fond smile as he walked around to the backyard, which looked identical to the area he found himself in during his stay in Limbo, and there was 5 graves under the great tree. Naruto Otsutsuki, Kagaya Otsutsuki, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, Asami Otsutsuki, Asura Otsutsuki. Naruto observed each grave with sad rippled eyes. My wife, my son, my daughter-in-law, and one of my grandchildren. It isn't right for a parent to bear witness to their children and grandchildren's graves. I only wish I could resurrect you three as well. Though I do wonder where Indra is buried, he murmured. Naruto suddenly gained a smile and placed his hands into the ram seal. Outer path. Rinnegan Tensai. A monstrous black and white creature with the same eyes as its summoner rose from the ground and spat out a green orb that buried itself into Kaguya's grave. Suddenly, a pure white coffin burst from the dirt and exploded in a green light. Kate Kaguya-heim? He asked hopefully, dispelling the king of hell. The light died down to reveal an 18-year-old Kaguya Otsutsuki kneeling on the ground, wearing a sleeveless thigh-length white kimono with magatama patterns running down the middle as around the bottom of it, as well as black martial arts slippers and white socks. She slowly lifted her head upwards and opened her pearl-colored eyes. "And Naruto? Yes, I'm here," he whispered with happy tears leaking from his eyes. Kaguya began to tear up as well and tackled her husband into a hug. "Why, you dumbass? How dare you die? Do you know what we went through after you were gone?" She sobbed into his chest. Naruto smiled sadly and pulled her closer to him. "Yeah, I was stuck in limbo after my death and I watched time fly by over the past 1,000 years. I saw everything from there." He cupped her cheek, making her look into his eyes. "I'm so sorry for dying on you, my love. I will use the remainder of our second chance making it right with you, I swear it. I'm so happy that we have another chance. When the Shinigami found me within the afterlife, I thought that we would never be reunited. I love you, Naruto Koi." Kaguya whispered and began to lean forward. "And I, you, Kaguya-heim." Naruto replied, and the two lovers met in a passionate kiss that conveyed the longing they've felt for a millennia. After separating, the couple sat in a comfortable silence for several minutes until Naruto said, "Kaguya, there are two things I must do. I trust that you've watched over the world from the afterlife as I have?" She nodded. "Yes. You are going to talk to Kurama-chan and test out which of your abilities are still usable, correct?" "Yeah, I'm so glad you taught me Amanamanaka. It would take far too long to find somewhere to train otherwise." Naruto whined, eliciting a giggle from his wife. "Probably the wisest person on the earth, and you still tend to act childish." Kaguya laughed, getting a pout from the other Otsutsuki. "Whatever, I'll be back shortly," Naruto said and closed his eyes. Mindscape. Naruto awoke to find himself within a replica of his backyard. He stood up from the grass and turned around, seeing a massive cage with a large orange nine-tailed fox sitting inside. "Kurama, it's so good to finally meet you," he greeted the Biju, who narrowed his red-slitted eyes at him. "Naruto Gigi, I'm glad to see you as well. Your descendant was as dumb as a brick, so it's nice to know that I won't deal with his idiocy anymore," Kurama stated with a vulpine grin. Naruto frowned. Don't be hard on young Uzumaki. He didn't exactly have the best resources available to him. He scolded. Yeah, whatever." The Biju drawled dismissively, then looked down his grandfather. "So what brings you here, Gigi?" he asked seriously. "Kurama, it was wrong of the ninja to lock you and your siblings away as weapons. That's why I wish to know if you'd like me to free you from this seal, or would you like to stay within me, but with no seal restraining you?" Naruto offered. From what Tu-san told us and from what I've seen in the short time you spent in this world once more, you seem to be interesting. For now, I think I'll just stay with you and see what happens. Though I will be willing to help you, should you free me from this infernal cage." Kurama growled. "Very well." Naruto stepped forward, and as he touched the paper seal on the cage, he activated his human and Preta pads. "You are no longer needed here, Minato and Kushina. But I could use your knowledge. Rest in peace," he muttered as he absorbed the two chakra constructs and ripped off the seal. Kurama smiled as the cage vanished into particles of light. He stood up for the first time in 13 years and sighed contentedly. "This is great. I can finally stretch out my tails." He turned his gaze at the smiling Otsutsuki. "Gigi, I am eternally in your debt. Don't worry about it, Kurama. You are my grandchild, therefore it is my duty to aid you whenever you need it," Naruto said with a grin. The giant fox rolled his eyes. "If you say so. Still, I will lend you my chakra when you need it. Perhaps with training, you may be able to access Biju mode." "Maybe. Listen, Kurama, I gotta go. If you need anything, send me a telepathic message." "I'm sure that it wouldn't be difficult," Naruto stated and snapped his fingers before disappearing. causing his mindscape to be filled with rabbits half the size of Kurama. The fox licked its mouth with a grin. We are going to get along famously, Gigi. Real world, 10 minutes later. Naruto's eyes snapped open and he looked to his wife with a smile. I freed Kurama from his prison, now we have 8 more grandchildren to save. He informed. Good, knowing that they are being used as weapons leaves a foul taste in my mouth. So what now, Naruto-koi? Kagaya asked. He stood up, bringing the white-haired woman up with him, and created a black portal with Amanamanaka. Now, we must train. 3 weeks later, Chunin exam finals stadium, arena floor. Look alive, Genin, this is your day. Genma Shiranui, the proctor, drawled to the competitors while chewing on a senbon. The genin, both on the field and in the stands, were wondering where the 3 missing competitors were. Sasuke Uchiha, Dosu Kinuda, and Naruto Uzumaki. It's uncharacteristic for Naruto to be late. I wonder where he went. Shikamaru Nara pondered while narrowing his calculative eyes. I don't know, but it still won't change the outcome of this match. I am destined to win. Neji Hyuga stated monotonously. Competitor's box. I hope Sasuke-kun makes it on time. Sakura said worriedly with her companion, Ino Yamanaka, nodding in agreement. Yeah, but I also wonder where your other teammate is at. He doesn't seem like the type to be late for something like this. The blonde replied. The female member of Team 7 scrunched her nose in disgust. Who cares where that Dobi is, not like he will make it in this tournament anyways. Ino looked at her friend in shock. Sakura, how could you say that? I may think he's an annoying moron, but I wouldn't talk so poorly of him if he were my teammate. Humph, that idiot only screws things up, why should I care about him? Sakura huffed and felt a cold chill run down her spine when a feminine and pale hand rested itself upon her shoulder. The 2 kunoichi turned around to see a figure in a black hooded cloak staring at the pinkhead with eyes reminiscent of a deactivated Byakugan. I would really appreciate it if you didn't talk so much trash about my love. The woman stated. 2 pairs of green and lilac eyes blinked. Love, Naruto is your boyfriend? The 2 girls screamed in shock. Nope, the woman replied, confusing the 2. He's my husband. With that, the 2 girls fainted, causing the hooded Kagaya to giggle. Of course, they were unaware that a certain Hyuga girl was both saddened by the news and enraged that some random woman dared to claim her Naruto-kun. Cage's box. Hiruzen sat on his chair with a content smile as the breeze gently caressed his wizened face. A time of peace like this does a great deal of good for my soul. The laughter of the children and the happiness of my people. That is worth dying for. He thought sagely. Greetings, Hokage Dono. Quite a crowd, don't you think? A gruff voice asked from his right. He turned around to see Rasa, the 4th cage, and his guards approaching the empty seat next to him. Indeed, quite a blessing if I do say so myself. I hope the travel from Suna was pleasant? Hiruzen greeted with a smile while thinking, something doesn't feel right about him. Humph, it went fine, no troubles at all. I am looking forward to see my son, Gaara, win these exams. Rasa stated. The Hokage's eyes narrowed slightly. This man is an imposter. If what Jiraiya-kun told me is correct, the real Cage would never call young Gaara his son. If anything, Rasa-san viewed the poor boy as nothing but a weapon. I will have to be on my guard. I don't know about that. I have one exceptional genin that could very well win this tournament. Hiruzen subtly insulted with his facial expression returning to normal. Rasa raised a maroon eyebrow. You mean Sasuke Uchiha? I will have to agree with you there. If Gaara doesn't win, the young Uchiha will. Hey, actually, there is another genin that I bet will win this thing. But we'll just have to see, won't we? Hiruzen replied while attempting to come up with the possible identity of the imposter. Are you Orochimaru? He does seem a bit fixated on Sasuke. Not to mention the brief look of hunger I saw in his eyes as he mentioned the boy. I suppose we shall. The Cage muttered while thinking, if not Sasuke-kun. Is he referring to that Hyuga brat? Or possibly the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki? No. That orange-wearing fool will never be able to outclass geniuses like Sasuke-kun and Neji. Hiruzen stood up and walked to the edge of the rooftop while channeling chakra to his vocal cords. Let the finals begin. His voice boomed over the stadium, getting loud cheers from the audience in return. Arena floor. Genma looked at the clipboard in his hands and raised an eyebrow at the change in Naruto's name. Whatever. Will everyone but Naruto Otsutsuki and Neji Hyuga return to the competitor's box? Like the proctor, everyone who lived in Konoha wondered about Naruto's name change, when suddenly, a black portal appeared directly in front of Neji and the person that came out caused jaws to drop and blushes to form on the faces of almost every conscious female. Of course, their skin paled when they felt a murderous aura emanating from a cloaked figure. Humph. Filthy hussies thinking that they can look at MY man like that. I'll put them in their place quicker than they can drop their diseased undergarments. Kagaya huffed in annoyance. Let it be known that the rabbit goddess has been, and always shall be extremely possessive over two things. Her husband and her ramen. With the other competitors, the genin gaped at the new appearance of Naruto. From the new clothes, to the longer red hair, amethyst-colored eyes, taller height, and the regal way he walked. They didn't know what to make of the situation. Hubba hubba. Who knew the shrimp could fill out so nicely? Tamari exclaimed while licking her lips. She heard a weird animalistic growl come from the audience, but shrugged. Must be my imagination. This is just an entirely new level of troublesome. Shikamaru drawled with widened eyes, causing his fellow stunned genin to nod mutely. Arena 4, HN. So, you get a new appearance and you dare walk like you could defeat me? You are still the sniveling little brat of a failure that you were before, so just give up. Fate is on my side. Neji sneered arrogantly at the bored Otsutsuki. Will you shut up already? Fate is merely an excuse for those with mental fortitude too weak to fight against hardship. Naruto said sharply as his eyes changed into a glowing blue with a beautiful white pattern bleeding into the iris from his pupil. Now, allow me to show you how outclassed you are. A dojutsu? What can it do? And why do I feel like my doom is fast approaching? Neji thought with a small amount of sweat forming on his brow. Alright, Naruto Otsutsuki versus Neji Hyuga. Begin. Genma shouted and leapt away as the two genins' killing intent spiked in anticipation for the battle to come. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.